welcome for the first time for those who are just joining. I am super excited to be with all of you today. I'm curious how many things you've attended so far today, if you're just joining for the first time. So there's a little poll. You can share your attendance so far. It's anonymous, no judgment. It's just curious how many people have been with us through the day, or whether you're just joining. Looks like most people have been here for both of the sessions so far, and a couple people are joining just for this for the first time, or just saw the first, or just saw the second. So it's all good, regardless of how much you've seen. I'm hoping that you're going to find value in the case studies themselves. I am so excited and proud of the team for putting all these together. This has been a tremendous project to create all of these case studies. I want to give you a peek again at what that looks like. This is the one about how to generate paid subscriptions. And this is full of tips and practical suggestions and guidance. You just heard from Tanmoy. Tanmoy has some tips on how he developed his paid subscriptions. There's a whole section here toward the end, which is specific tactics and perks you can offer to subscribers. So it's really practical stuff. And I think that it'll hopefully build on what we're talking about today and give you a chance to delve deeper into these topics. We also have them on Medium, so you can share them with people and read them online. So this particular session, this particular kind of moment in the day, is a moment to talk about something that's challenging, which is that we often get stuck. We've heard from a couple people, Tanmoy and Pam specifically in the previous session, about some of their strategies and some of their the ways in which they admit their limitations, right? And try not to overdo things, right? Try not to do 25 things in 24 hours is kind of the strategy for them. And I would welcome the opportunity to hear from anyone here in this session about your own approach to combating those periods when you are stuck, right? Because it's not all about growth and monetization success and finding lots of new readers and listeners and viewers. It's sometimes about those plateaus that we all face. We all face these periods either before we've started or after we've started at some point along the way. So I'd welcome the courage of any of you to share a little bit. You can do so in the chat, but you can also do that by turning on your camera and saying hello and just sharing your own experience. You'll hear a lot from panelists today. We're doing most of these in webinar style, but this is a moment where we can open up a little bit as individuals, if you'd like to. Again, no one is compelling anyone to, but if you'd like to, just share an experience you've had, a challenge you've had in terms of a plateau, or a period or a moment when you felt stuck in your creative journey. And if you have a positive step that helped, that's great. Or if you just want to share that moment, that experience, that's also okay. I will share along the way a couple of my own thoughts, but I really want to open the floor to others. We just talked in the last session, Tanmoy referenced this notion of seeding the floor, right? CEDI, seeding the floor to others. And so I think that's an appropriate context for this opportunity. This is going to be a short session also, so we'll just have a little bit of time to talk about this, and then we'll move on to collaboration, which is another strategy that can be helpful in getting unstuck sometimes, is having others to help us move forward in positive ways and finding new collaborators to inspire us and to work with us and to nudge us. So you're free to use the reaction tab to put your hand up. That's a good way to signal that, hey, I'm willing to share a little bit. I'm willing to be open a little bit with something that's been a challenge in terms of getting stuck or feeling like I'm at a plateau. And I see a hand, so I will turn it over to Lou. And please just be very concise in your comment and just introduce yourself first and just share a little bit with us. Thanks. Lou?
Well, 5 years ago, I started a small monthly rural newspaper, and it was a creative project, a service to the community. And as we've grown, it's become more of a management, supervisory, administrative. I've spent a lot of time doing grant writing and fundraising. And it's, you know, that's where I've really felt stuck, is becoming more of a manager and a supervisor and, you know, a business person. So I'm ready to retire. So if anyone wants a cool job, take it to the next level.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lou. I think so I think what you're identifying is that, you know, we talked about this earlier in the day, the seasons of our careers or seasons of our creativity, and there are seasons of our career, right? So we heard from Pam and Tanmoy about the sort of seasons of the week, right? And Pam talked about the day blocking rather than just time blocking, like blocking out a whole day. But she also talked about, you know, cycles and 2 weeks when she's feeling productive, 2 weeks less productive. And you're taking it to an even broader level, right? Which is the sort of life season, right? Which is the moment that we're moving to a different type of responsibility, management in your case, and that can lead to feeling stuck, as you've pointed out. So thank you for that. Is there one insight that you want to share, building off of that or coming out of that experience, that you think others might benefit from?
Well, I'm looking forward to the session about collaboration, because it is a collaborative process. And also, you know, I've learned to delegate, and, you know, I feel like a mother hen sometimes. And so it's so great to learn how to hand things over. And so seeding the opportunities, I like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I see a hand from Marini. Maybe you can join us with your thought.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Hey everyone. My name is Marini. I'm an independent photojournalist and videographer and all around storyteller. And I am smack in the midst of a period of feeling stuck and trying to hone in on exactly what I want to do. And so I'm sharing that in real time, and it's crazy uncomfortable. But I'm doing my best to tell myself that, like, this period of discomfort is, you know, is necessary. And I think I'd like to think I'm not the only one that's ever experienced that, dealing with a lot of self-doubt and just maybe a little bit of option paralysis, and trying to just, you know, hone in on to get some clarity. And it's, again, uncomfortable and not, but I hopefully will be able to check back in 90 days or 100 days, or ideally less than that, and say that I reached a point of I've worked through that. So all of that is to say, you know, embracing the fact that this is part of the process of moving forward in our independent, like, individual endeavors. So.
Thank you for sharing that. The option paralysis resonates with others, I think, as you can see in the chat. And Perry Schwartz talks about this concept of the paradox of choice, right? That's another frame for this. Oftentimes, about just the number of different options we have, right? He's talking about it in that book, in some cases, in terms of the choices we have in terms of what we're going to order at a restaurant, right? Or where we're going to go on vacation, or sort of the practical choices we have in a given day or week. But I think what you're speaking about is a broader kind of paradox of choice, which is in terms of the options we have in our careers, and we can work anywhere in the world in some cases, right? And you've worked in many parts of the world, I think, and we have so many different parts of ourselves that we can develop or focus on, and skills and career directions. And I think the book, you know, I alluded to this book earlier, the 4,000 Weeks Oliver Burkeman book. You know, he talks a lot about this, about how when we recognize that, you know, we have a fairly limited amount of time left, it forces our attention to the things that matter most to us and the trade-offs that our decisions entail. And those trade-offs can be painful and costly. So I think there are probably a lot of people who can relate to what you're talking about. And I do hope that since you're on this 100-day journey, we're on this journey together, that I hope that if nothing else, the cohort kind of can help in some cases, you know, just kind of drawing inspiration from others and seeing what others are doing, and having them draw inspiration from you. Sometimes that can help with that process being unstuck. Joe, just to respond to that, it's Oliver Burkeman's book called 4,000 Weeks. Just to continue the conversation, I'd welcome anyone else onto the conversation, or if you want to share a thought or a resource that's been useful for you, or an idea or an insight, Marini, that you found useful thus far or recently that's been helpful, feel free to share that as well. Who else would like to share a thought or experience or reflection about this notion of being stuck or getting unstuck? I see Annie's hand. If you could just introduce yourself briefly and share your thought.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Dance. I'm an independent journalist based in rural Western North Carolina. Hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm not sharing my video because of our lack of broadband and internet here. So just to back up and hone in on the point I made in an earlier session, for me, funding is a challenge for everyone, but especially here, and I come from New York and Connecticut, where you have a much broader audience, but I think here it's really a news desert. So I've used buymeacoffee.com as a way to generate revenue directly from readers. And it's been, I wouldn't say lucrative, but it's a way forward, and I'm researching other methods. So that's my insight for anyone who's in a similar position.
Thank you for that, Annie. Joe, do you want to jump in?
Sure.
Got
Yeah, sorry.
a great avatar there. That's really,
Yeah, this is actually my real video. This is what I look like. Yeah, no, mine is more about like personally getting stuck on things. When I am like, I get to that point where I know I have a bunch of things that I need to do, or like a big thing that I need to do, but I can't bring myself to do it. So what I generally try to do, or at least this is what I tell myself, is that I try to disengage completely and do something creative, and like draw something, make a little motion graphic, or, you know, watch a YouTube tutorial on something that's totally that I want to learn, that I like, a side hobby kind of a thing. And in doing so, sometimes I'll get like, my brain will disengage, and in doing so, it'll sort of like be open to different kinds of connections that will eventually lead me back to either the project that I have to be working on. I'll find something new, or you know, maybe even down the line, I'll realize, oh, that actually can apply to this later.
thank you. Yeah, the idea of sort of using creativity to push us out of a plateau, or to kind of help us get unstuck is interesting, and oftentimes kind of counters the brain's tendency to ruminate or focus on something negative, or focus on what we can't do, right? If you're creating, you're kind of pulled in a more positive direction.
Also, one last thing is that I've found recently, I just go and try to find an AI tool that could generate something to get me started. I sometimes find it easier, especially if it's like a writing thing. I find it easier sometimes to edit and get in the mode of writing, start from the editing and back into it. And even if I don't use anything that the tool generated, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Here's where I'm going to start then.
Interesting. Yeah, so this generative AI, generative tools, generative creation tools are something I think we're all going to be hearing a lot about. We're already hearing a lot about the generative AI sort of photo tools, right? So Midjourney and DALL-E, for those who haven't spent time with those, essentially allow you to create art, if we want to call it art, or visuals at least, algorithmically, automatically. We give a text description, right? For anyone who hasn't seen that, you give a text description. So I want to see a picture of a cage with no bird in it, which has exploded, right? Which shows in the background a New York City landscape or whatever. You just put in some text like that, and then you get a picture of that, right? Somebody used something like that for a post about Elon Musk and Twitter and the explosion that's happening at Twitter right now, as an example. And you get the AI to generate that visual for you, right? And there are generative AIs that generate text for you, that will be generative AIs that generate video for you. Meta is working on that. So sort of working with a computer essentially to generate something is kind of what the idea is on that. I see a hand from Flavian. I also, before Flavian, and if I'm mispronouncing your name, please correct it. I want to mention this other book that is along the lines of the 4,000 Weeks book by Oliver Burkeman. This one is called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And it's a phenomenal book about this idea, kind of going back to what Lou was talking about, the seasons in our lives. Arthur Brooks confronts middle age in this book and says, are my best things behind me, right? And how do I make the most of the rest of my life, and how do I find happiness in the rest of my life in this middle period of my life? And he has a really brilliant and thoughtful approach to that, in my view, I found very helpful. I recommend to others. And essentially, it's about recognizing the seasons and strengths that you have, and moving from the sort of frame of crystallized intelligence to fluid intelligence. This idea that we can, at a certain point, we may not be at our creative best, or we may have certain things physically we can't do or don't do the same way, but we have other things that we have. We have the capacity to do mentorship. We have the capacity to help other people. We have the capacity to do more reflective kind of wisdom focused work, and various other things. I'm oversimplifying, but there's many rich things in that book. So I recommend it to people on this topic. And Flavian, you want to join us and share a thought? And I recognize that we have just a handful of minutes left before we'll take a little pause and get ready for the next session.
Sure. Thanks, Jeremy. First thing I should say, Jeremy, you should tweet these book recommendations, because they're awesome. And I love your explanations as well. In terms of getting stuck, it's really nice to see some people in this session today. Crystal and I think Andrew, who's on one of the panels. I had all this hesitancy to go to a conference in Austin for sustainability local news founders, and I started early this year. Went through GNI, and as a new founder of a local news, I'm in Toronto. Company, you're struggling with what to focus on, and you get into these routines, especially people who are left brain into these routines of the same pattern. And I was completely disrupted last week by going to the convention, lack of sleep, by just bumping into so many people and having great conversations. One of them was with Crystal. I had conversations with Andrew, and you just come back feeling like you can do stuff even if you don't know how. And so that's a good thing to sometimes do. Just disrupt yourself with a vacation or a conference or whatever it is, but get out of that mentality. The other thing I mentioned that I really like from Pam and Tamoy was they try to make it physical, the actions of getting things done. And I have these little things of Play-Doh. I have 6 different colors, and they represent 6 types of tasks, a couple marketing and outreach things, writing and editorial, and then operational stuff. And I just create a little ball of Play-Doh each time I get something done. And then I have something to look at the end of the week in terms of what I didn't do or what I need to do more of. And it's just right there in front of me. And it's kind of playful, because I grew up with Play-Doh. So if you can gamify any aspect in a physical sense, it's quite cool to try to physically enjoy the journey. Because I don't know about you guys, but I tend to look at all the things I didn't get done at the end of the week, and the Play-Doh helps to help me see I did do something.
I love that. I've never heard that idea before. I really appreciate that, Flavian. You've definitely taught me something just now. I just tried to sum it up what I was hearing and observing what you said, and I think that's just a great thing. I want to try that. Making something physical to embody something you've accomplished, both as a creative act, as an embodiment of kind of being creative, as a way of reminding that you have done something, even though the physical work you've done may just be in a screen. There's no tangible version of that. So that's a really great. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful idea. I
did a presentation last week at the summit in Austin on isolation for founders, and I did incorporate the Play-Doh. I'm happy to send it to you. Yeah,
I'd love to. I think people would really love to hear more about that. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being here and for sharing that and adding some insight and wisdom to this conversation, which we're going to wrap up pretty shortly. Well, let's just do a quick lightning round in case anyone has any quick things you want to share. Something in the chat. Share one insight, one idea, one thought for other people who are here today in the chat. If you have one, something that's been useful to you, a resource, a book, an idea, a link, just take the next 30 seconds or minute and and share that with those who have gathered here in case what you have to offer might be useful to someone else. So I'm going to keep quiet for just 30 seconds and give you an opportunity to put in the chat something for the rest of the folks in the room, a book, an idea, a thought, or something you've just taken away from this session. One of the nice things we can share in Zoom is resources in the chat. We can't do that in person as easily. This is one of the benefits. So please do share one thing in the chat. I see a couple of people sharing already. Give you 30 seconds and then we'll say a few words to wrap up. Okay, so I see several great ideas. I want to draw this to a close shortly. One thing that I found useful, I'll share a link to a post I wrote about journaling. I find journaling to be helpful because I'm in my head so much, and when I put ideas onto somewhere else physically, either on paper or in a digital journal, I somehow realize what I've been thinking or assumptions I've had or things that have been concerning me. And somehow it's a bit like what Flavin was saying about making it physical. It's not quite physical in the same sense as a Plato, but it's at least out of my head. And I found that to be helpful. And I've been exploring different kinds of journaling. There's the morning pages kind of journaling where you just do it as soon as you wake up and you do it on paper and you draw and you write whatever. There's the kind of journaling where you're focusing on a particular question or you're doing repeated questions each day at a certain time. There's different kinds of journaling, and I've been really exploring and enjoying that as a way to sometimes get myself out of ruts or to move past a plateau. So that's one thing that I'll offer as we get ready to close here. And I won't summarize everything here, but we have some summaries that we're going to be putting together after the summit today, and we'll try to gather some of these insights and share back out some of the great things that you're sharing with all of you and that you've been sharing in the chat. So thank you for that. And there's just as a reminder, we've got two final things coming up. Next is the collaboration panel discussion led by Umbreen with some fantastic people, including Jay Klaus and others who are just, Andrew Huang is part of that conversation as well. And just how do we actually find other people to work with and do more than what we could do all alone. And Amanda McLaughlin, also one of our great instructors in the EJCP program, is on that panel. So that's a really exciting group coming up next in a few minutes. And then we're going to round up the day. So Umbreen and Crystal and I will share some of the key insights we've taken away from today and share some final thoughts and some quick tidbits from the case studies, which touch on many of the subjects we've been talking about. So thanks everyone for joining and for being here in this short session, and look forward to seeing you in a few minutes in the next session. And see you on the other side. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining.